Today's episode is brought to you by copyandsend.com. You know, Gary Keller once told me that an agent's database is the most valuable spoke in their business, but most agents are doing nothing with their databases. And when I ask agents if they're mining their database with just email marketing, they 99% of the time say no. When I ask why, they almost always say, I'm not a writer, or I don't know what to say. So look, we knew we had to solve this problem. 8 months ago, we put our copywriters on this issue, and now they've produced a library of over 300 email templates. We've made this super easy. You find a piece of content or topic you like, copy it, and send it to your database. For only $12 a month, your copywriting problems are over. You'll never have an excuse not to mine your database. And regardless of the size of your list, your database, I guarantee over the course of the year, there are deals in there. Don't lose another deal because you weren't emailing your list. This is a very small investment that will yield tremendous results. Look, even if you only got one deal this year, that's a 600% return on investment. To make this, I want to make this a no-brainer for everybody out there. Sign up for Copy and Send. Try it out for 30 days. And if you are not 100% thrilled, we will refund you every penny. No questions asked. You can't afford not to do this. And if you are in the early stages of growing your list, go to the site copyandsend.com. We have an article showing you 25 ways to quickly and easily start building your list today. Copy and Send. Start mining your list today. Welcome to Super Agents Live. This is the one place where you can come and hear the most successful people in real estate. You'll hear how these super agents built their businesses, how they stay productive, and how they stay motivated. Who am I? My name's Toby Salgado, and I made my first million in real estate. And I'm your host for the next 30 minutes while we talk to yet another amazing real estate entrepreneur. Stay tuned.
Let's go! Yeah!
Hey everybody, what's up? How's it going? Hope everything's going great in your part of the world. It's gonna be April, man. The birds are out, the singing, the leaves everything is blooming around here in San Diego. So it's always an exciting time until it heats up in June. All right, hey, listen. Today's episode. First of all, I almost never re-listen to the stuff that I do, and I did a few days ago, and I realized that when I'm trying to make a point, I say right, probably way too much, and even me, I was listening to it, it was annoying me. So it probably is annoying you. So I just want to let you know that's something I'm gonna work on. I can get better at that. Now today's guest has a pretty interesting background, and I always spend some time on a person's background, but we spend a little bit of time, and here's what we talk about. So number one, number one, this guy is a KWU trainer. Now apparently there's only 25 of these guys. I had no idea this designation even existed. So that's pretty interesting. And look, we talk about this guy had a rocky background, really, really rocky. And we talk about how he took that rough background, used it, weaponized some of what was a challenge for him younger, and he turned around and became a big success. We also talked about how many of us will use our background, our lack of education, our lack of money, our lack of, and use it as an excuse as to why we are not succeeding. We talk about how he used to do that and how he took that notion and, again, flipped it on its head. We also talk about how a little bit the same thing, how to take your disadvantages or what you perceive your disadvantages are and turn them into an advantage. Now, usually I will run two commercials, one for radio, one for Copy and Send, which you guys, everybody should go and get Copy and Send. But I want to talk about something that some of you guys know we do, and I almost never talk about it anymore. But it is, I think all of you should have a podcast. And again, the reason why we built Copy and Send was to mine your database. Perfect. That's great. What about if you had a podcast? It's a tool to build relationships. It's a tool to build a bit better and deeper connection with your database, and you get access to a whole new group of people. So check it out. It's Viral Cast with a K. We have a 2-minute explainer video. Check it out. Let me know what you think. All right, let's get to it. Today on the show, hey guys. Today's guest is a little bit of, he's doing all kinds of stuff. I get it. Look, he's got a team, one of the top teams in Massachusetts. Mass is mass, but 2014, right? I know we're going back a couple years. 2014, he did 26 million. That was sort of his best year. Last year, his team blew up. We're going to talk a little bit about that. He only did 17 million. And I know a lot of you guys are going, what? Only 17 million? But, compared to a lot of people on here, he's got a book, which is Amazon bestseller. We'll talk about that. And he's followed my advice. I tell all you guys you should have a podcast. He has a podcast. It's growing. We'll talk about that. I'm thrilled to welcome David Hill. David, thanks for taking the time, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It's an honor, man. I listen to your podcast all the time, and thanks for having me on.
Of course. So let's just start with the basics of tell us a little bit. If you listen to the show, I always want to get to know who you are as a person. Then we'll talk about what you do. So tell us a little bit about who David Hill is.
Yeah, I'm first and foremost, I'm a husband and a father of two amazing daughters, Jacqueline, who's 25, and then I have Samara, who is 5.
Jeez.
Now, so big gap.
Yeah.
And also we have a little one on the way who's due in June. Names my 4-year-old daughter Samara named her Penelope. So we have another one coming, man. So
jeez.
That's family man, real estate agent. I've been in the business since 2003. Started my team at around 2009. It's been, as you talked about, up and down with the real estate team. Bringing, just up the ups and downs. I think a lot of people that run teams understand. We can talk more about that.
Yep.
KW trainer, Michaela Owens faculty trainer since 2013. One Thing certified trainer for Gary Keller's book, The One Thing, and my podcast, which is Path to Mastery, man. A lot of people,
but hold on, David.
know me from my podcast.
Hold on, David. You just did the thing. You started off on the right path, but you did the thing that I tried to veer away from, right? And you said, okay, first and foremost, I'm a dad. Then you talked about your kids, which is great. Then all of a sudden, you talked about all your business stuff. Right. So if I'm a person just looking at you or just meeting you for the first time. Right. So you said you're a dad, which is fantastic. But then you got into your identity, which is your work. So tell me about you as a kid. I want to know, I always want to know, how old are you? Let's start there.
46
okay.
right now.
So 25. So you started.
I have a 25-year-old daughter,
Jeez.
so that's probably aged me, right?
Jeez, man. Scary. So you're in Massachusetts. Did you grow up in Massachusetts?
Actually, man, we grew up. My family originally is from the Bronx, South Bronx, New York. Father, alcoholic, very abusive. Family really, really poor. We grew up in the projects, spent a lot of time, unfortunately, living in the car, and then eventually into a step van. Moved up to Massachusetts in my teens, really my mother escaping from my father back then. Just probably, I don't know. I didn't know we didn't plan on talking about my childhood, but just, I've been through a lot as a kid, man. I grew up that type of a childhood, and then honestly, got in trouble as a kid, got sober about 15 years ago, believe it or not. And that's when I actually went into real estate, and that's when I started changing my life. So pretty much everything, besides my daughter Jacqueline, who's, like I said, 25 now, everything really good started happening in my life about 15 years ago.
So the Bronx in the late 70s, early 80s, man, that was a rough place, dude.
Yeah, I was a kid. All I remember from that were fires, man. I just remember there were fires every night. And one of the last nights we were there, we were actually rescued from the building in one of those big ladder trucks, and literally the ceiling, the plaster was falling. It was like it was raining fire. It was really, really, really wild. And my brother actually got a really bad burn on his neck from plaster, and Yeah, it's pretty scary stuff, man.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen some. I mean, it's like a war. It was like a war zone. It seriously was like a war zone. I mean, I've seen pictures, I've seen documentaries, and it's just crumbling buildings, and it doesn't seem like America, which is absolutely insane. So look, you know why talking about somebody's how they grew up is important, because that shapes your worldview. That shapes. I'm sure today you have a desire to succeed because you never want Penelope to go through some of that stuff that you went through.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Without question. I mean, it's definitely a driver for me. Now, I think, for a lot of years, though, I wouldn't tell you it was that. I would tell you it was one of those things that probably held me back and made me feel maybe like I wasn't good enough, or made me, accept maybe lesser than I probably should. I don't know that I thought as abundantly. And I would say just in the last 5 years of my life, it was in the Gary Keller Mastermind. I got into the Gary Keller Mastermind in 2012, and just helped me start thinking bigger. Do
you think, David, and again, I want to get into your business, that's what everybody tunes in for, but do you think that your background, your alcoholic father, your lack of opportunity, if you're living in a car, I have to believe that, your diet wasn't great, right? Maybe, you know what I mean? There's so many things, maybe you went to school and kids made fun of you because your clothes weren't, washed as well as they could have been. Do you think that for a portion of your life that you use that as an excuse of why you're failing or not succeeding?
Absolutely, man. I think you nailed that, and it's true. Yeah, and and then one of the things I do now that I probably don't talk about enough, which I should, is almost every year the city of Worcester has me come and talk to the graduating class for some of their summer school programs, and I go around and I talk to the schools and talk to the kids in some of the underprivileged areas, and in my talk's called Broken Chains. It's really about letting them know that, hey, you know what, just because you grew up this way, just because this is where you came from, doesn't mean that's where you have to be your whole life. And when I grew up, even when I was a teenager, the successful people, Toby, were not real estate agents. They were drug dealers. Those are the guys that drove the nice cars. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So growing up, that's what I saw, and that's what I thought success was. And so one of my ways to give back now really is to get out there and talk to the younger kids in my area.
So
and it's funny when you talk about school. I mean, I had this conversation the other day with somebody, and he was. They called me Zebra because my mother was white and my father was black. And we moved around so much, I never really got settled into any area. So that's. But anyway, that is what it is. Again, I think for a lot of years I probably let it, be a crutch, and I used it as an excuse.
Sure.
But now I just think it's an opportunity to help some other people, and I think we all have our stuff. Everybody has something, right? That they went. I mean, my wife, she's from Laotia, and she, as a kid, they were in a refugee camp. You know what I mean? So. We all have our stuff, we just got to figure out how to get past that and move on in life. And that's where I am right now in my life. So everything in the past that's the past. Now it's about thinking anything's possible. You look at people like Tony Robbins, or you look at people like you, and it just shows what's possible.
Well, I love being blocked in with Tony Robbins. So thanks, man. But
yeah, right.
but let me ask you this. I agree with you. We all have our stuff, right? You can grow up ultra. I know a lot of people who grow up ultra wealthy, and they have their own thing, right? And my kids, they have no problems, but they manufacture. Everybody's got some stuff, and it's just a matter of do you weaponize your issues, or do you let it hobble you? And so speaking of like weaponizing some of your issues, somebody like you, right? They called you Zebra. You certainly knew you didn't have it great. You moved around a lot. So one of two things happened, I would imagine. Either one, you got pretty good at fighting, or two, you were able to weaponize, your skills to make friends really quickly. And maybe I'm wrong. Did one of those two things happen, or how did you take your disadvantage and make it an advantage for you to survive? Just moving around a lot.
you just nailed it with this, because I'm even more impressed with you now than I think I was before this interview, because I wasn't sure what we were going to talk about. But no, I mean, listen, as a kid, the only thing I was good at was fighting. My father taught me to kickbox at a young age, and that's what I knew, and that's what I was good at. So I mean, like I said, as a teenager, as a young adult, I got in some trouble because to me, I wasn't able to. There was no conflict resolution. If something happened, it was about, I'm tougher than you, and we'll duke it out. And and that's not productive, right? But as now I look back on that, I realized that was a strength, back then, and I didn't have very many, but it was something that I could actually look to and gain strength from and gain confidence from. You know what I mean? So then I had to, as I got older, use that same strength. I became a boxer. I boxed when I got a little bit older, and I had one professional fight that I won. That's my big claim to fame. So undefeated as a pro boxer. But that's where I had to find my strength and find my confidence. So you're right. I learned how to fight. People talked about me. People wouldn't talk about me because I'd punch them in the mouth.
Right.
I mean, I obviously don't do that anymore. It's been a long time. But yeah, growing up, I think you really nailed that.
Well, so let's jump into present day, because one of the things, and I think you talked about it a little bit, but one of the things about people who come from a background like yours is it's hard to shake, especially when you're a kid, right? It's hard to shake, a scarcity mindset, and not only shake it, but then to get into abundance. And I'm really curious as to how you reshaped or rewired your head to get into abundance.
Yeah, I think ultimately for me, it's just about surrounding myself with abundance. I mean, from like I said, in 2011, I was invited to be in Gary's mastermind group, which put me I'm in my market, and we're selling 90 homes, and I'm the top guy, and thinking I'm a big shot. And then all of a sudden they put me in a room with people that are doing 500-600 homes, and their volumes 90 million, 100 million. I'm like, wow, that's I didn't even realize that was possible. You know what I mean? So
right.
So getting around people like that, and then also just personal development, a lot of reading. Became friends with Jarek Robbins. Back around that time, being around him, going to some Tony events, and I just have a really disciplined routine. I mean, every single morning I meditate now I meditate for 20 minutes. I journal. I'm using the Freedom Journal right now, but I've been journaling for years. Positive. I'm always listening to something positive, whether it's
hold on, David.
Tony, Gary.
David, hold on. All that's good stuff. But here's because I know there are people out there who have a background like yours, and here's what I'm trying to get at. You were doing 90 units, which is great production, but you were doing, I mean, that's, obviously you're the top 1% of, most people do 10 or 12 a year. What was the driver that you had to be able to think pretty big to do 90 units, right? Especially when you didn't even know 500 units or 100 million was possible. So why didn't you say, oh, dude, I'm doing 30 units. I'm the top guy in my office or market, and that's good enough. Like, how did you push yourself beyond what you'd seen other people do?
That's a good question. I never really thought about that. I don't, honestly, I think I was just so, if I would tell you anything, going back to my early years, I was a workaholic. I mean, I kept myself busy. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the hunt. I built my business working FSBOs and expireds. You know what I mean? I loved the listing appointments. I loved getting people beyond no. It was almost like I just had so much business. I needed to bring on more agents. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I remember in 2009 or 2000, I think it was 2010. I I forget, I was interviewed by somebody, and I was working like 80 hours a week, Toby, and I just like always was starting to hate the business, and we started talking about coaching, and that's when I hired my first business coach. And that's when I realized, I think the next year we had done a few units less, but we did maybe like 88 units or something. But all of a sudden, instead of working 80 hours a week or 78 hours a week, because I was working more like maybe 40 to 50 hours a week. You know what I mean? But doing almost the exact same production. So I don't know exactly what the driver was. I think more or less just keeping myself busy. Like I said, I'd gotten sober in 2002, and I just went all in, man. I needed something else to do with my life, and
that's what
I just went all in.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think a lot of people who are, have addiction problems or drinking problems or whatever, and then they do get sober. I've seen many people, they compensate. They take all that energy that they used to put into drugs or alcohol, and they put it into a whole different thing that is quote unquote healthier, right? Maybe that's working out, maybe that's working on your business. So I was actually going to ask if you thought there was some transference there. Okay, so I really don't want to talk about I think you said. Did you say you were doing short sales, or was it FSBOs expireds? What is the first channel?
We started with. I started with FSBOs. I did in 2012. I did a ton of short sales. I was teaching short sales at my board. I know how to do short sales. I actually like short sales. I love them, but they've certainly slowed down. I think they're easier because you don't have to deal with. You deal with emotional sellers, but you're not dealing with the price reductions and silly stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and that's. That's. I don't even think that channel is even worth talking about on the show. So
I get it.
So let's talk. So in terms of when you were just building the biz, you had no budget to deploy. So it was FSBOs expireds, and what was your unique value proposition to those to that FSBO seller at that time?
Man, I was a grinder, man. I just, I had this conversation the other day with someone too. It's interesting. I interviewed somebody on my podcast, this guy, Art Matarasso, and his strategy with FSBOs is just really patient and laid back and, getting a relationship with them, and which is definitely important. It's part of it, and I'm not, but my strategy back then was just, every week pop by, grind, just be there, grind them down when they're ready to go. Bring some value, but more so just be there when they're ready. You know what I mean? I joined a team, and honestly, I'll tell you, I'm not going to say it was a mistake, because it wasn't, because I learned what I learned, and I've been successful. But the only thing I learned going on that team was to prospect. You taught me how to prospect FSBOs and expireds. You never taught me about customer service or taking care of your clients or any of that. You just taught me prospecting. And after being on his team for 3 months or 4 months and getting my first check and getting a check for like $800 or something, I said, "What the heck is this?" And I just left and said, "I'm gonna do this myself," and then, like I said, like 4 or 5 years later, I started my own team after just kind of banging my head off the wall for a lot of years. But I was always closing 40, 50 transactions myself, and just grinding.
All right. Well, so look, so you're a trainer for you're not. Are you a MAPS? I know, but are you like a MAPS or Bold? Like, what are you?
I'm a It's Keller Williams University, KWU certified trainer. So. There's master faculties, the only level higher trainer at Keller Williams than I am right now, which would be my next step.
So tell me, what is the typical person that comes to you for training? What do they look like in terms of production?
It's all levels. Right now, when I teach a class for Keller Williams, I'm probably the agent that's looking to go from 16 transactions. Up to 30 transactions.
Okay,
right?
That's great.
Winwood Sellers is a class we're teaching right now. I teach customer experience. I do some of the KWU curriculum, a lot of it, business planning clinic, things like that, setting goals, all those types of courses. But I'm honestly not doing as much teaching right now, because I really decided to step back now and just focus on building my team the right way. I think I've had some big challenges with just not hiring the right people over the years.
Right.
Now, honestly, not being nobody ever taught me leadership, man. I didn't grow up with taking leadership courses, and I think that was probably the thing that I really, struggled in. One of the areas I think I struggled the most was leadership, and it's something I've been really focusing on for the last 3 years of my life, like hardcore leadership.
Yeah, you weren't. Yeah, well. I mean, just go back to your childhood, man. Like you're a lone wolf running around, right? Nobody want to talk about,
sure,
right, David, and leave David. So I can totally understand why you struggle with leadership. But here's why I asked about what the typical person or the person who comes to get some coaching from you is, those people that are doing 16 deals, that want to double their biz and go to 30 deals. There's got to be thematically some things that you see over and over, like the same people make the same mistakes over and over again. What are those? And two, how can you on this show help people fix them? Because I guarantee you, there's a ton of people that are in that boat. I'm doing 16. I want to do 30.
Yeah, I think the key to that is, and it's no different. I mean, it's the same when if you're doing 30, you want to get to 60, right? Or if you're doing 60, you want to get to 120. It's a system, right? It's what system am I missing? What tool am I missing? And it ultimately comes down to leverage. And I mean, I think that's what we teach at Keller. You're not a real estate agent, right, Toby?
No. Don't
tell
anybody else. Well, that's not true. Hold on. That's true and not true. Do I have my license? Yeah. Do I do anything with it? No. Not for anybody else. Okay. I do my stuff.
Well, the reason I listen to a lot of podcasts, and it seems like there's just a lot of Keller Williams agents interviewed for podcasts, and we all talk about systems and leverage, and when people hear that, they sound like a couple fancy words, but ultimately, I mean, having the right system in place is what's going to help us get from where we are to where we want to be, and then we all hit ceilings. I mean, my ceiling has like I said, my ceiling's been that 90, 100 unit for years. So now what do I need to do to break through that ceiling is for me, I think it's leverage. I mean, it's really finding the right person, the right talented person.
Well, hold on.
I'm going to be stuck there.
So you are stuck there. So let's
I am stuck.
Right, but that's an easier fix than you think, David. So, but let's go back. So we can say systems and processes, and that's fine to say. But here's the deal: you can do. As a solo agent, you can do those 16 deals, you can do those 30 deals, and have zero systems and processes. The problem is you get a life like you lived, right? You're working 70, 80 hours a week, and you're doing 50 deals, and you end up hating what you're doing. Now,
yeah,
I think you can. People can operate without system and processes up to a point. Now, I think for me, in terms of what I've seen, I think that 50 deal mark, that's when you actually need systems and processes to start to streamline and your deal flow, transaction flow, whatever, and not replicate work. Let me ask you this. So
50, I think 50 seems a little high, but I mean, I'm sure we could do that. I think I probably did that.
Yeah.
But I think Gary Keller says, when you're doing about 36 transactions is when you really should start looking to hire your first assistant to take some of that, that $15 an hour work off your plate.
Well, that's a different thing. I mean, I would say you should hire that assistant from day one. I mean, from day one. I think from day one, the infrastructure that you should have as a
if you can afford it, right? I mean, some of us come into business with no money, so how do we afford to hire an assistant?
Okay, fair enough. So after you close your first deal, you take all that money and run it back into your business, and then but then you're going to say, well, what if you need that money to live, right? And then it comes down to the fact of you, and this is a mistake that real estate agents make, right? Getting into this business, that people think they can get into this business with no money and make it work. They can't. I believe you need to have at least 6 months of runway. You need to be able to make zero money for the first 6 months.
Yeah. I think that's accurate. I tell people, have 3 months reserved, or don't even bother, and go full time. If
Yeah.
Thinking part-time, forget it. It's a waste of time.
Yep.
3 months. If someone shows up and they follow the plan we give them, they will be making money in 3 months, guaranteed. It's a matter if they're going to follow the plan, though. That's the key.
Yeah, but I agree. But it's on the wrong side, though, right? So you're going to say go out and find a buyer. And they can certainly do that. And
no, we're going to prospect, man. We're prospecting based, brother. We're going to have you pick up the expireds, do some circle prospecting, do some door knocking. We want you making contacts, going belly to belly, talking to people. That's where the money's made.
Okay, so the perfect. We're on the right track. 28 minutes in, we're perfect. Okay, so when I'm going to be circle prospecting, I'm going to be door knocking. I'm going to be I can call expireds and FSBOs without regard to a farm, but I'm assuming when I'm cold calling, prospecting, and circle prospecting, that's in my farm. So is that yes or no to that question? Or that statement?
Well, honestly, I think sometimes a lot of new agents probably don't even have a farm, right? So let's find an area that we want to focus on.
Okay.
To me, I think the best people to call in the beginning are the people that have their hands up, which are going to be the expireds, the FSBOs. When somebody starts on my team, the first thing they do is they show up with their 100 index cards, right? Give me 100 index cards with 100 people that like you and you like, and we'll think about giving you business, and we're going to start there, right? We're going to call them all, and we're going to let them know we're in real estate. We're going to send them a postcard, email, blah, blah, blah. But that usually will generate, 1 or 2 or maybe 3 leads. We need more than that.
Yep.
So then we're going to go find the people that have their hands up. And I think that's a great place to start. Well,
I agree.
When you talk about farm, I think that's later on down the road.
Well, how far down the road? Because again, I mean, this again.
Well, it takes
go ahead.
2 to 3 years. They say about 3 years, right, to build a farm. Minimum 3 years to start reaping the rewards, right? You start you're farming. You're harvesting, you're planting, but you're not going to see the rewards. So you want. I definitely agree with you. I mean, if you look at Russell Rhodes, he's like one of our top agents. He built his business farming. But
Russell
the reality is that takes time. I didn't know that. Did he really?
Yeah.
No. Russell left Keller Williams?
He's gone, baby.
I guess I'm a little behind on my news, my friend, but I did not know that.
That's okay.
Well, anyway, I know Bob Lucido is with us, and he was on my podcast recently, and he's doing 1,600 transactions. So, and his business comes from very similar, farming, and all new construction, and he built that over 30 years.
So I'm gonna push back on you a little bit, David, because
love it.
Because I don't think it takes 18 months, much less 36 months, to have a farm and start reaping some rewards. As long as that farm, and again, it goes back to size, right? So I have a Chicago agent that is a quote unquote farm of 400 houses, and I'm like, dude, don't expect more than 3 or 4 deals, even if you're marketing to it for the year. But I have another agent who has a 2,000 person farm and with a crazy turn. I just a month ago I said, dude, how many houses are active in your market right now? He's like 50. I'm like, dude, and the price point is at 800. I'm like, you can make $1 million in this 2,000 house farm. No problems. So I think it comes down to, if you are operating off of a hi, my name's Toby, are you thinking about buying or selling in the next 3 months or 90 days or 60 days, whatever, it might take a long time for you to actually do 40, 50, 60 deals in that farm. But I think if you have, hey, my name's Toby, I live and work in the Rolling Hills Estates area, here's my unique value proposition, are you thinking about doing anything? I think if you come at a farm in the right way, you can penetrate it right now.
I agree. I think there's business to be had right now. I agree with you.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think it's the engagement, showing up, doing things, being involved, being in the community, events, all that. Absolutely.
Okay.
Without question. Without question, man. I think in the beginning it's, getting people, focusing on the people that really are looking to sell right now, though. And I think that, to me, has been the quickest way, at least to get people into production.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's all a matter of getting people's radars tuned, right? If your radar is tuned to people that want to sell, I had a guy, I don't even remember his name. He's a great guy on the show, and he's like, dude, I door knocked like 100 doors a day, like a crazy number, and he said my radar was so tuned to people want to sell in 30 days, like that's all I saw. Like he could somehow sense it after a while. He's like, I can look in a crowd and see the person who wants to sell in 30 days or less. You know, and I asked him, I said, listen, well, what if you found somebody and they said they want to list, in 60 days? He's like, I just move on. I'm like, you wouldn't start dripping on them? He's like, no, I'm looking for people who want to sell in 30 days or less. So I think it's a matter of.
And I love what you're saying, and I agree with you, my friend. But again, that's not a system, right? It's not a system. Like you can't systematize that.
Okay.
Like I'm saying, okay, here's a proven system. Like you get me the 100 index cards. You talk to 20 different expireds every day. You do this, you do that. We can guarantee it. You know what I mean?
Okay, I love it. Okay, perfect.
To me, that's more of a system where I can say, here's what you do. You do this. The problem is most people don't do it.
Well, hold on. That's a different thing, though, because
different conversation. Yeah.
No, because this industry is rife with here's your desk, here's your phone, you're on your own. Now you are operating a little bit different because you are actually giving somebody a system in a box. Now, if they're too lazy to implement it, that's on them. But so outline that system for everybody who doesn't have a system. Okay, 100 cards. And what do they?
So the first simple step is you give them. I have one right here. It's a little 100 index cards, shrink wrap sealed. You give it to them. You have a week. Bring this back to me with. I want a name and phone number of 100 people that your family members, friends, people that respect you respect, that would actually be interested in doing real estate business with you. So they bring that back. Okay, great. Now we're going to call everybody. We're going to update their address. And we're going to get their email address. Simple. So they make 100 contacts. Everybody they talk to, we give them a script. They obviously ask for a referral. Who do you know thinking about buying? Blah, blah, blah. Get their info. We send them a postcard. We send them an email. Then in 3 weeks later, we follow up again. Hey, we just want to confirm you got my postcard. Great. Awesome. Well, I again want to remind you I'm in real estate. Had you come across anybody thinking to buy or sell? Blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And typically when people do that, they end up with sometimes 2 or 3 transactions. You know what I mean? Just from doing that. And you're talking about you're 3 weeks into the business. And usually on the first call, they usually get, 1 or 2. So you start off with that. And then, we give people scripts. And we get them on the phones. The challenge with the phones right now, Toby, you probably know this too, is just the amount of people, the sheer volume of agents that are calling in call centers and all this other stuff. So we're actually transitioning into door knocking now, doing more door knocking with FSBOs and expired just because of the calling. So, giving them a plan. So here, every day, here's what we do. We're going to talk to 100 people this week. And if somebody doesn't want to talk to 100 people, then they're just showing, hey, I don't want to do what it takes to be successful in real estate. So that's the conversation we have with them ahead of time. So, anybody can come into Keller Williams, but to be on our team, these are some things that we're gonna talk about. You're gonna do this. If you want to be part of our team, this is what it takes to be successful. Either you're willing to do it or you're not, but that's up to you.
What about those people? Because I would be that person. Excuse me. I would say, dude, I have no problems calling 100 random people or 100 random people in my quote unquote farm a day. But I would have an issue with putting all my friends on a list and calling them and going, hey man, what do you say to those people?
Got it.
Because I've had people like,
yeah, I love that. It's common. What you're saying is so common.
Yeah.
And it all the time. Well, I don't have a problem calling strangers, but I don't want to like impose on my friends or family members or any of that, right?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Are we coming? You really have to get that person to come from a place of contribution, right? Like,
yeah.
It's not about them. It's about helping those people, right? The people that are looking for our help. I want, like, a perfect example. I had a lady on my team. She was on a I forget what exactly. It was like a committee at her school, at her kid's school. And she came into one of our team meetings one day, and she was complaining that, one of the other committee members was in a terrible real estate transaction. And I'm like, well, why is she in a terrible real estate transaction? Well, because she ended up with this other agent, and it's just horrible. And I'm like, well, didn't she know you were in real estate? And she's like, no. I'm like, well, why not? She's like, well, I didn't really want to, push that on those guys or impose on them. And I'm like, well, Michelle, I mean, now, if she knew you were in real estate, she would have been working with you, right? Yes, okay, then she would have been in this situation, right? And she's like, you're right. And for her, that was the moment that she kind of said, you're right. I need to let people know I'm in real estate because I don't want them to get stuck with the wrong real estate agent out there.
Right.
So for her, I don't know, does that make sense?
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because this is something that I deal with all the time with other people. And I say something similar, David. I go, hey, listen, if you had the cure to cancer, you would have no problems calling all your friends going, look, I have the cure to cancer. Like, who do you know that has cancer? Because I'm going to heal them. Right? You got to believe.
Love that.
Right. So, but here's the deal. That presupposes that you have to get that person, this Kathy girl or whoever you're talking about, Michelle,
she's no longer on our team anymore. But yeah.
Okay, that's fine. That presupposes that she has the confidence to do a deal and that she can actually help that person instead of completely blow up a transaction. I think a lot of people, especially if they're new, they're not going to have that confidence. And a lot of those people go, look, I have no problems practicing on some stranger, but do they really want to practice on, my good friend Toby's $1.5 million house? No, you know what I mean? I don't want to, if I blow up that deal, I lose that relationship with Toby. So anyhow, I just wanted to see what,
I love that. And so support, right? So having a mentor, Toby, being part of a team, all those things so that you can have that confidence. Because I think what you're saying has a lot of validity to it. And you're right. And they need to feel confident. So, getting the right training, right? Partnering up with the right people, all that comes into play.
Right.
And then hopefully you will have the confidence to let everybody know. But so, that's one of the differences, I think, when we bring people on, is we help them create that confidence.
That's great. I mean, again, I think you are one of the rare people that support your team and your assets the way that you do. Unlike everybody else, here's your desk, here's your phone, you're on your own, right? That's how it works.
There's, I'm like I said, I'm a KWU instructor, and it's an honor to be one. And I think a lot of people say, well, I'm a Keller Williams trainer. And we're Keller. There's we have 150,000 agents at our company, right? There's probably 100,000 people that say they're Keller Williams trainers, but there's 120 of us that actually have the designation of KWU certified trainer, and then there's about 25 that have master faculty. So there's a big difference. You know what I mean? So really using the systems and really understanding the systems and helping people to be successful.
Got it.
Is what we do, or what I do. You know what I mean? Or what a trainer can actually do. So there is a distinction there.
Right. Okay. And that's completely fair, and I get that, and that's great. So again, going back to talking to that person who's doing 16 deals and they want to do 30. So let's go back to your playbook, your process, right? So first thing is 100 cards. The second thing is, call the 20 expireds if there are 20 expireds in your market. What would the third thing be in terms of building a prospecting business?
It's talking to the for sale by owners. It's doing some open houses, right? We want to get people in open houses, strategic open houses. I'm not a huge fan of circle prospecting, but I mean, we do it. In the beginning, I just want people talking to people, and I want them really hammering the script, and I want them to get used to those scripts, Toby, because I want them to get fluid with the script, right? The more times they say something, it's going to become it starts to get fluid, and it has a nice flow to it. So in the beginning, man, I just want to talk to as many people as possible. Just keep talking to people and talking to people. The more you keep talking about it, you're just going to get more confident. So we want to talking to people, finding people. We just did a stellar seminar on Saturday, man. We had 2 stellars show up, man. We had this whole thing we planned out for a month.
Brutal.
But both stellars that showed up were awesome, man. They're both, we're meeting with them. They're probably going to end up listing with us, So it's all types of things like that. Just kind of being involved, yeah. So I'm probably all over the place with this.
No,
but, I mean, and in mentorship, man, they shadow me. I work with sellers. That's all I do. I work with sellers, and I talk to talented agents on a daily basis. And then, I have a lead buyer's agent who's phenomenal. So, if I bring on a buyer's agent, they're going to spend time. They're going to spend time with Kate or V. You know what I mean? And learn the ropes from someone that knows what they're doing. We don't want to just throw people, just like you said, here's a phone, here's a desk, figure it out. No, that doesn't work.
Well, I know that. I know that. And you're right. It doesn't work, but that's how this industry works. Now, you are breathing rarefied air. Okay. Right. You said it, right? So you're in Gary Keller's mastermind, number one. Number two, you're one of 120 people with this KWU, certification, Again, you're breathing rarefied air. We have to scale all the way down to all these jokers out there who are building quote unquote teams, and they give their people no support, no nothing, right? Just like your first experience, the guy sat you down, gave you a script, you were banging the phones, you get $800. Like, what's that at the end of the month or week or whatever? All right. So I'm trying to ask you some of these questions, David, so that people can listen to it, write it down, and go, yeah, that's my playbook. So again, what's next in your playbook?
It's not complicated.
Okay.
Man, obviously when you got to start getting some appointments, the keys appointments. Tracking our numbers. Yep. So I sit down with I just hired 2 new agents in the last month, and we sit down on Wednesdays, and we okay, great. How many appointments did you go on? Okay, so you only went on 1. Your goal was 3. Okay, so how many people did you talk to? Well, I only talked to 30. Okay, well, your goal was 100. So tell me what's going on, and where's the gap? We got to figure out where the gaps are, right? Because in the beginning, I think we have to do a lot more of that, right? Unless you just come in and you've got this huge book of business and you can. But most people that come in, that's not what we're seeing. So it's the accountability. I think that's a big part of it too, to help people become successful. And then once they get a few transactions going and they get some things under their belt, then we can kind of let them go off a little bit more on their own. But ultimately in this business, even where I am, I always have to be talking to people. I show up every morning. I still lead generate. Probably for an hour and a half to 2 hours every single morning. Well, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but 100%, dude. Every business has a funnel, right? You have to have a funnel, whether you're attracting people, via advertising / marketing on radio, television, print, whatever, or you're prospecting. You need to get people into your sphere, right? Your world, and then slowly move them down the funnel, right? Ascend them until they list with you. Let me ask you this question. You track everything for the people that you've trained and or work with. What is an appropriate ratio to number of dials to 1 appointment? Or wait. Number of dials to a conversation, number of conversations to an appointment.
Yeah, it's such a hard question to answer because it's so dependent on a person's skills. And how fluid are you with your scripts? Your scripts, your dialogue. Are you strong? Your value proposition, right? Like the goal is to get. I'll use the stereotype. Typical. I guess 1 in 20 is where we want to get them, right? Or maybe in this market it's probably higher because the inventory is so low. But I think if you talk to 30 people and your skills are where they need to be, or damn close to where they need to be. It should lead you to 1 good appointment, and you should have, at least 3 or 4 solid follow-up from that amount of contacts, because it's proven that 70% of our business comes as follow-up. So going backwards, I guess another thing is you got to teach people how to set up a good CRM. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, it could be Top Producer, it could be whatever you use. Makes no difference, but getting the person in there, right? Engaging them with emails, drip campaigns, phone calls. That ultimately is going to, because 70% again is going to come as a result of follow up. And I don't know, I just heard it on, it might have been your podcast. I heard a sales trainer say that the average salesperson follows up 1.3 times.
Yep.
When it takes 7 times to actually close a transaction or close a sale.
Totally.
I don't know if you heard that number.
Yeah, no, I've heard similar numbers, and I hear all sorts of numbers. But I will say I'm not cutting this in. I'm doing this live. But that's why we built our copy and send. Right? People don't follow up for a variety of reasons, and one reason is they don't have they don't have the skills to take a cold conversation and make it personal. And then they're like, oh, I don't want to, my follow-up, if I call them, I don't know what to say, right? If I send them an email, I don't know what to say. So, I mean, that's why we created copy and send, so that people go, okay, you don't need to know what to say. Here's some emails. And if you use the content, you can say, okay, let me read this piece of content and call up, hey, David, Toby here, really quickly, I read this article about why right now is a great time to sell. I just wanted to share it with you. I can tell you about it, or I can just email it to you. What do you want me to do? I mean, it's that's not rocket science, but again, I think a lot of people are
absolutely.
It's amazing. It's amazing the lack of just conversation skills people have. I mean, I see it all the time. It's amazing. Right? I mean, it's.
I think people are so sometimes I see like newer people are so worried about what they're going to say that instead of just being present with someone and asking questions. I mean, ultimately, we talk about scripts and this and that. Once you learn what to say, then you can just focus on being present and figuring out what the person's goals are and helping them achieve their goals. You know what I mean?
Right, but I would agree with you, David. But you know what, man? I think it's more than that. I can tell you that if you ever bumped into me at a bar or whatever, like you and I and anybody, like we're gonna have a great conversation. You know why? Because I'm generally and honestly curious. I'm honestly curious about who you are, what you do, why you do it. Why are you motivated to do that? And I have zero issues with saying something inappropriate. I say inappropriate stuff all the time. And it's amazing. I'll tell you, my wife got a little bit mad with me. We were recently in Napa like 2 weeks ago. And, so we're out, we're having drinks and it's late and we call an Uber. It was just so weird that the girl who took us from our hotel to downtown, ended up picking us back up, right? And again, this is going to be super inappropriate. I get in the front seat with her again. We've had plenty of drinks, and I start talking about it. I'm like, I can't believe you picked us up. And she's like, oh yeah, this and that, and she had a giant rack. And I told her, I said, Jesus, you have big tits. And my wife's sitting in the back, right? My wife, she didn't care at the time, and that's super inappropriate. But like that loosened again. I'm not a threat. My wife's in the back, But so again, I think I think people are too. In addition to not being, go ahead. You want?
I want to share something with you because
Yeah.
this happened on Friday, and I talked about this at my team meeting this morning.
Okay.
You know who Chris Voss is? Have you connected with Chris Voss yet?
Dude, I just got off the phone with him right before I called you. It's weird.
Awesome, good. Chris is phenomenal. I interviewed him for my podcast. One of my best favorite interviews, as far as like just valuable, like awesome, but. He's got a technique when you're talking to somebody, like people tend to kind of brush us off or not give us the whole picture. And what Chris says is that, I'm sensing some reluctance. Like he's calling people out on their crap, right? He's like calling them out. So Friday I'm on the phone with this guy. He's expired. He's been in our database for a while. And he's like, well, I'm going to list with this other agent, and he's a friend of my sister's, and she's cool. I'm like, well, why don't you at least look at us for a second option? You're not obligated to me. We'll give you another opinion. At least you're more educated. Yeah, no, that all sounds good. And he's like, I'll definitely call you back. And I'm like, well, I said, you know what? I'm just sensing some reluctance here. I'm like, what's the reluctance? And the guy just paused, and he's like, when can you come by? Right?
Yeah.
And I literally emailed Chris, okay? that's the difference right there, Toby, of just being real with people.
Yeah.
Right? Just being real, because 99% of most salespeople would have probably at that point said, okay, I'll follow you, I'll wait for you, or okay, I hope you call me back, or I'll follow up again. But by going outside the box a little bit, and even in my own mind, I'm thinking, I don't know if I should say this. I said it.
Yeah.
And it worked. And I listed the house on Saturday. I met with the guy and listed the house.
No, 100%. I will get people. And we're talking about radio and this and that, and they're interested in it. And I'm real with people. Tell them, like, here's the good, here's the bad, here's what to expect, blah blah blah. And 80% of the time, most of the time, people go, okay, yeah, let's do it. And then I'll get other people and go, man, I got to think about it. Right. And I'm sure you have done listing presentations and they're like, okay, that's great, David, I got to think about it. And, my response is like, you don't need to think about it. What do you need? You don't need to think about anything. You have all the information. You know what it is? You're afraid. You're afraid. And then I'll stop and they'll go, yeah, I'm afraid. I'm like, okay, what are you afraid of? Let's talk about that.
I appreciate that.
What's
right?
the worst that can happen? Right? Yeah, because again, this goes back to, I think, this notion of, having the cure for cancer. If the doctor says, okay, look, the treatment, what are you scared of, David? Let's talk. I will tell you the worst thing that can happen and the best thing that can happen. Let me help you. And and all of a sudden, I think when you say those things that are seemingly hard, hey, listen, David, you don't need to think about it. You're scared. Yeah, I'm scared. Okay, let's. Here's what happened. You just stepped out of the role of salesperson or pitchman, and you stepped into the role of advisor. Okay, I know where you are. I've been there before. Let's talk about it. Let me help you work through this. And all of a sudden, you're taking them by the hand and leading them into the room. And and what do people? People want to be taken care of in that way. All right, geez, David knows it all. I feel comfortable. Let's do it. Let's sign it up.
Yeah. Well, people don't want to be sold either. People want to buy, right? I love when awesome salespeople call me. Like I'm like,
so do I.
I'm inspired by it when someone's really good that calls me. But I you know what I mean? I don't want to be sold anything, but I want to buy. I think everybody's like that, right? We don't want to be sold to, but we want to buy when someone's really good, or we connect with someone, or we think they're really, really awesome at what they do.
Yeah, but hold on.
I'm inspired by that stuff. I'll let people sell me stuff if they're good enough.
I had this same. Chris and I were role playing, and he's like, dude, you didn't step in that trap because you knew it was a trap. I'm like, oh no, dude, I didn't even. I want to see where you're going. And here's what I told him. I said, good salespeople are the easiest people to sell to because I will engage with you because I want to see how far you can take me down the path. Right. Yeah. And I will keep it going. I'll keep role playing with you because I think it's fun. And again, my personality is some SC person, but you're right. Nobody wants to be sold. They want to buy, but you have to take yourself and put yourself in that different role. When you go on a listing presentation, you're pitching, dude, you're selling, and you need to shock people into a different environment to where you can help them make their own decision. And I think you need to step in that advisor role. And I think the basis of it is if you can be curious or seek to understand before trying to be understood, I think you can step into that role faster than a typical person.
Absolutely.
All right, man. All right. Sorry, I think I rambled on that too long. I'm sorry, Chris.
No, it's good, man. It was good.
Hey, all right.
Man,
so
I appreciate it. I don't anything else you wanna talk about, my friend?
Two things, dude. One, a book recommendation. No MREA. So here's the setup, right? I'm an aspiring agent. I have $25. What book should I go buy right now?
Oh man, it really depends on where you are. But I right now I'm reading Essentialism. Are you familiar with Essentialism?
No.
Oh man, it's awesome. Greg McKeown, Essentialism. It's all about focusing on only the most essential stuff out there. Man, he's just got this. The book's awesome. He just talks about this metaphor for your closet. We have all this stuff in our closet, but we only wear 10% of the stuff 90% of the time, right?
Yeah.
So he's like, just get rid of all that other stuff. It's such a great metaphor for business and focus. I love essentialism.
Dude, it's so funny. I literally just did that. I literally, right in the beginning of January, did a hard reset on my clothes. I went through and I literally threw almost everything away. And I said,
give them a good will or something. Yeah, donate them. But yeah, whatever.
Well, no, I did. I went to Goodwill. Yeah. I dropped it off at Goodwill. I didn't throw them. Yeah, because there was good stuff in there. I was
saying that for all the listeners out there. But yeah.
And it felt so good. Well, and then I went to J. Crew and got a whole new reset of new stuff, which I feel better. I look better, right? My kids are now, instead of me like working out in the yard in some old, cargo pants from 2000 or cargo shorts from 2006. Right now I got new good stuff on. Like I feel, like I come off to the world as a whole different guy, which is crazy. And so that went so well. I went into my studio / office, threw it. I had a leather couch, great. Threw it out, got new rugs, painted it, new baseboards. It's a whole new world. So I'm going to buy this book. And everybody, sorry.
Awesome. It's phenomenal. And you can get it on Audible. So, definitely download it.
There you go. So Essentialism, Greg McKeown, The Disciplined Pursuit of Less. Go to audibletrial.com/superagents live. All right, man. David, real quick, where can people find more about you? I know there's people out there going, hey, man, I'm in Massachusetts. This David guy sounds like a great guy to learn from. And I'm sure you're looking for talent. Man.
Yeah, I'm looking for talent. Best place to get me, Facebook. Get me on Facebook. My friend thing is full, but I have a page, David I. Hill. My podcast, man, I get so many, compliments. I inspire people like you, Toby, and Pat Hyman, and Josh, the GSD guy. And I listen to all your podcasts. My podcast is called Path to Mastery. Just getting, man, we're up to about 6,000 downloads now, a month. It's growing. I know in the realm, it's not huge, but it's growing. I remember my first week doing it about a year ago. I had like 10 downloads. I was all pumped up. So
yeah,
we're just really growing, man. I'm super excited about it, and I love the podcast.
Dude, I think everybody should have a podcast. It's a whole nother conversation which we probably should have covered, but everybody needs to own their own platform, and this is a platform that's growing and it's never going to die. Here's the thing. Just like, we had regular TV when you and I were growing up, right? We had 6 stations, and then it was cable, and then and now everything in this world is becoming more and more curated. And you see it in radio, regular radio to XM. It's becoming more and more curated, and people want content that speaks to them. Whatever. I don't want to go off and around. Hey, buddy, but hold on. Where can people find out more? You said all the stuff you did, but where can people find you?
Yeah, man.
Or did you say that? I wasn't listening.
I did. I said, well, my Facebook, David I. Hill.
Got it.
And also, if you want to email me, you can email me at david@davidihill.com. My website is actually David I. Hill as well. I've got the sales playbook. I'll tell you, anybody, it doesn't matter what level you are in sales, but if you want to take your business from that 16 to 30, there's not a better book out there for you. It's got the systems, it's got the follow-up, it's got the everything you need to know about connecting with people, man. It's all about connection. And ultimately, please check out my podcast, man. You're gonna love it. I just got the coolest interviews, really cool people like Toby and just Chris Voss and Pat Hyman and all these really awesome people. So it's really starting to grow. So
cool.
That's
awesome.
How you get me, man.
Awesome, David. All right, buddy. Hey, let's definitely keep in touch.
Appreciate your time, my friend. Thank you.
See you, bud.